Hi, Steve Stawning with a quick, short, and sweet lesson on manager T.O.s. Now, what's a manager T.O., you ask? Well, it's a term we use in the automotive space to describe a situation where a manager would get involved with a prospect who hasn't yet bought. They turn over the prospect to the manager. This usually happens, in fact, about 99.9% of the time happens when the prospect is pissed off, ready to leave the lot, they want their keys, they want to leave. And so the salespeople are instructed to turn them over to a manager. The manager acts kind of like a cooler, tries to help the customer to stay on the lot so they can sell them a car. Now, most dealers, in fact, every dealer I've ever worked with has what we call a 100% manager TO policy. This means that no one leaves the lot lest they talk to a manager. The reality is, though, that very few dealers really enforce this, and a lot of reasons for that, but the main reason is managers don't really want to talk to pissed off people all the time. In fact, really no one does. Who wants to deal with someone that's gotten so fired up about a car deal that they're ready to walk and really punch anyone who gets in their way? And so managers have sort of shied away from doing the TO. But what I want to talk about and what I want dealers to start doing today is to start doing the TO 100% of the time, but doing it early in the process. Don't wait for a prospect to be pissed off. Go in and do what we call a flyby, do a manager TO around the time of the meet and greet or right after the demo drive, whatever. But don't wait until the prospect is pissed off, because it's no fun for anybody at that point anyway. And when you do save those deals, generally they're lower grosses, meaning you make less money, and they're lower CSI. That's the customer satisfaction index that all of the OEMs grade their dealers on. And so why do you want to get crushed on gross and crushed on CSI and do this management TO later when you don't even want to do it at all? In fact, research has proven that if we can get managers involved earlier in the process, we're going to sell more, and we're going to sell more at higher grosses. Now, here's why. When a buyer and seller are strangers, as they are in most car transactions, they show a propensity to define prices in a bargaining process. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is they want to bargain. So the seller has a price, whether it be MSRP, whether it be first pencil, that's that first deal that a dealer presents to a prospect, whatever that is, the buyer is ready to negotiate. A dealer could give them the very best price in the market. In fact, most used cars today are priced to market, meaning they're priced very close to their selling price, within a few $100s. And so there's not a lot of room to negotiate. But because the buyer and seller are strangers, the buyer puts a different value on that vehicle, right? So a dealer might have a $7,000 vehicle that really is worth about $7,000, and they've got it priced at maybe $7,100. A buyer's probably thinking around $6,100 for that vehicle. And the problem is then we get into this negotiating process, and that happens when buyer and seller are strangers. When they're friends, they tend to agree about the price of an asset. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is friends generally transact the price closer to the actual value of the asset. More than that, they don't bargain. So for example, if I had something to sell a friend, let's say a piece of weight equipment, and I said, will you give me $100? Very rarely, and almost never, if they're a true friend, would they say, would you take 75? See, they don't treat this like a garage sale transaction, right, where some cheap person walks up to your $25 item and says, will you take 10 cents? See, that's when buyer and seller are strangers, but when they're friends, they agree on a transaction price, usually based on the price that the object is set for, and so there's very little back and forth. So how do we become friends with the prospect? Well, the way that a car dealer can become friends with a prospect to get the manager involved earlier are these earlier TOs, right? So when do we do this? Well, it all depends on how much you want to sell. If you're a car dealer and you're satisfied with selling the numbers that you're selling today at the grosses that you're selling today, well, keep doing what you're doing fine, right? But if you'd like to sell more, and you'd like to sell them at higher grosses, then let's talk about when you should get involved. Now, if it were Steve Stawning's dealership, I would try to get my managers involved right at the meet and greet, right? Get them early in the process. Definitely, though, no later than right after the demo. I'm really just talking about just coming in, doing a flyby, meeting the prospect, shaking their hands, saying, listen, I'm right over there if you need anything, or if Bob here can't answer your questions, I'm sitting right over there, just come on over and say hello. And here's an interesting thought. How about if in this meet and greet, in this manager TO, right, this earlier TO, the manager walks up with a bottle of water and says, hey, I didn't know if you were thirsty. Here's a bottle of water. My name's Steve Stawning. I'm the sales manager. Bob's going to take great care of you here. But, if you have any questions, My office is right over there. Door's always open. Just pop on in and say hello. By doing that, what we'll get is later in the process, right, when we're down to doing the numbers and I have to walk over and save this deal, the buyer already knows me. Hey Steve, I buy in, okay? I'm going to get my managers involved early in the process. I want my sales managers out there doing the early T.O.s so that we can get higher grosses and we can sell more. But those are front-end grosses. Is there anything we can do about the back-end grosses? Hey, I'm glad you asked. This works for F&I as well. In fact, I've seen dealers do this and do this well. And I've even seen it in a large dealer study where F&I managers, by doing the flybys, were able to get 10 to 15% higher back-end grosses simply by conducting these flybys before the prospect gets into your business office. So the same thing that with the sales managers. They just stop by, meet and greet. Hey, my name's Steve Stauning. I'm the business manager here at Steve's Toyota. When you're all done with the numbers and you're coming in ready to do paperwork, you're going to do it with me. I'll see you in a bit. We can do a lot of things with that. One, we can do an assumptive close, right? Steve, the F&I manager, already assumes everything's going to happen the right way, right? That when you're done with the numbers, and then it also takes away a lot of the concern that the prospect has, or at this point now the buyer has, about going into the business office. If I do a flyby and I say, listen, I'm the guy that you're going to do the paperwork with, we're going to get all the title and all that other information, I've now made it very low key to come into the business office, right? It's not this big grand thing. And now when they come in, they're going to be more open to looking at F&I products. It's been proven, 10 to 15% higher grosses by simply doing these flybys. All right, short and sweet recap on this short and sweet lesson. Here it is, T.O. early and T.O. often. That's it, right? You'll sell more and you'll do it at higher grosses. How's that for short and sweet?